Today's devotion is titled Flesh Parties Canceled. We're on day 363. If you are following along and reading the Bible through and you are following it numerically, no matter where it's at in the year, or if you're following along on the calendar, it's December the 29th, and today's morning rinse is Zechariah 7 through 10. And the featured verses include Zechariah 8:16 through 17. These are the things which you should do. Speak the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment for peace in your gates. Also, let none of you devise evil in your heart against one another, and do not love perjury, for all these are what I hate, declares the Lord. So it is that time of year. If you are following along on the calendar date, it's that time of year when friends and family and organizations are planning a New Year's Eve party. And if you are following along on the dates in this devotional, New Year's Eve is just 2 days away. And you may be planning on attending one yourself. You may be planning on hosting one yourself. And parties are usually a celebration of past accomplishments with this excitement of what is new on the horizon. And you know what? There are all kinds of parties. There's retirement parties, birthday parties, graduation parties, bridal parties, going away parties. These are all just a few examples of celebrations in, someone's life, and their accolades of or accomplishments are also celebrated. But have you ever heard of a flesh party? Well, I am not proud of this, but I used to host quite a few flesh parties for myself. Unlike the standard bash or party that I mentioned before, these specific types of parties, these flesh parties, celebrate the accomplishments of our flesh. Mine would commence by running my mouth about someone I was harboring bitterness towards, and then regurgitating how I had been wronged. I would then expand the story by using phrases like, and I think they did this. Or another phrase that I would use is, did you hear about this? I would often exaggerate a situation without knowing even the full truth, just to make myself look better than the person that I'm talking about. And these actions that I would do would not encourage peace, but instead they were revealing the evil parts of my heart. And I would then excuse my chatter by saying to whomever I was talking to, I would actually even call it out. I would say, "Oh, sorry, I was just having a flesh party." And I would literally use those words. And these parties, these types of moments in our lives need to be canceled. And while today's featured verses pertain to guidelines and instructions under oath, they are guidelines for daily living as well. And we should be under oath with God to adopt his standards of holiness, and flesh parties are complete opposite of that. So why do people exaggerate stories or thrive on spreading gossip and rumors? Because, unfortunately, there is a fruit of bitterness somewhere in their heart. And when I first started taking notes on the book of Zechariah, it was way back in 1998. And I made the commitment to remove the words flesh party from my vocabulary. So way back in 1998 was when I was having a lot of these moments where I was having flesh parties, and I would actually verbally tell people, "Oops, sorry, I'm having a flesh party." And when I was reading Zechariah during that time, I made the commitment to take those words out of my vocabulary. And I realized when I was hosting these types of parties that I was looking for pity and I was looking for attention. And, Zechariah was trying to get the people to grow up by pointing out things that God hates. And these types of parties are on the list. Stay focused on the Lord. Stay focused on His word. Stay truthful in your speech. My encouragement is, if you have ever had a flesh party, cancel them. Cancel those flesh parties, because it's not worth it to continue to have those types of parties, because they just are not fruitful. Let me read the featured verse again to you, and maybe you will have a different perspective of it, knowing that today we're talking about flesh parties. And that is the reason why I titled today Flesh Parties Canceled, so that we can put an end to flesh parties. So our featured verse is, again, Zechariah 8:16-17. These are the things which you should do. Speak the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment, for peace in your gates. Also, let none of you devise evil in your heart against another, and do not have perjury, for all of these things are what I hate, declares the Lord. And when we devise evil in our heart against another one, really that's a flesh party. And then usually when we have that in our hearts, we want to tell somebody about it because we want to make ourselves look better than them. These are the type of parties that I'm talking about. These are the things that we need to cancel. We need to cancel our flesh parties. So today's challenge to dig deeper is to ask yourself, have you ever hosted a flesh party? Another question to ask yourself is, have you ever attended one? Have you ever been to someone else's flesh party? My challenge to you is to commit to canceling any future parties like this, as well as leaving when you are found in the presence of somebody else's flesh party. Keep on the lookout for this. Keep on the lookout for those types of scenarios, whether you feel like you are having one yourself or whether you feel like you are in the presence of somebody else's flesh party. When we are aware and when we are challenging ourselves with situations like this, what I would say is that God's going to give you an opportunity. He's going to give you an opportunity to either cancel one of yours or walk away from someone else's. Because the reality of it is, one of these types of parties might present itself to you now that you are sensitive to this and now that you are aware of what one might look like. So your challenge is to continually be aware of this type of party and choose to either cancel your own or walk away from somebody else's. And that is your challenge. There's probably going to be an opportunity come soon regarding this kind of thing. And as we grow in the Lord and as we get closer to Jesus and as we get closer and closer to living a life fully dedicated to Him, God always provides opportunities for us to continue to grow. That's how we make the Bible applicable for our lives today. I've mentioned that all year long. And so this is just another one of those opportunities to fulfill that. And I hope that you have people in your life that are going to call you out when you are having your own flesh party. And I hope that those people are close to you and that you keep them close to you, and people who are going to speak truth to you when you are having it. It says that in this featured verse, Zechariah 8:16, these are the things which you should do. Speak the truth to one another. When you are in the presence of a friend who is having a flesh party, speak truth to them and invite them to be able to speak truth to you when you are having a flesh party. It's always really great to have accountability in our lives. That is another way of growing. That's how we grow is, one, we are brave enough to speak the truth to one another. And two, we are brave enough to allow people to speak truth to us. Another way to grow. So when you are ending your evening this evening and you are having your evening reflection, I want you to write down what your thoughts are about flesh parties in your life. Do you feel convicted about this subject? Do you feel like, oops, yep, that is what I was doing just today. I was having a flesh party. And sometimes we do this because we want to justify our behavior, and that's not at all what we should be doing. And sometimes as adults, another word for a flesh party is a temper tantrum. Have you ever known somebody who just got a little irritated and has a temper tantrum? It's kind of that same way, just the adult version of it. And I can honestly say I'm not free of them. I know that I don't use the words flesh party anymore because that is what the Lord was telling me to not use that word, just cancel them. But I still can honestly say that I have not overcome not ever having one at all, ever, because sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit selfish and I'm, not getting my way. And so therefore, I'm having a little bit of a temper tantrum. And I hope that someday I will be able to graduate and say I've never to have them anymore. But I'm not there yet, and I'm going to keep trying and trying and trying. So write down your reflection. What are your thoughts about this in your life? What about your thoughts come to life? Is the Lord talking to you about this subject today? And if he is, what a great subject, to continually grow on as we're finishing out this year. And I hope that it inspired you and gave you kind of something new to think about. And always am using the word to help us to grow every single day, just keeping the word helping us to grow. And if you don't have my devotional, or you know somebody that needs my devotional, get the link in the show notes as well as in the YouTube video in the description. And until tomorrow, keep rinsing, reflecting, and repeating, and canceling those flesh parties. God bless.